Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another father and daughter conversation. How you doing today, Dynasty?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling good and looking great.
So, like always, I was sitting up here talking to my daughter, and we was talking about culture and life and things like that. And then the subject came up of broken homes.
Yeah.
And what that look, how would we define that to the world as far as our perspective of a broken home?
Right. And I think the reason why we had this conversation is that we noticed that an important part of culture is like our families, right? And our traditions. And we felt that when we were telling our stories about how he grew up and then how I grew up, we noticed that it was like this generational pattern.
Right, exactly.
That was like, okay, so when we define this, I want to make it clear that we are not defining this as saying this is a universal perspective for everybody's lifestyle coming from people who grew up in the hood or people that's coming from poverty, or we're just coming basically telling you guys from our observation, from our lived experiences, what we noticed. And I feel like I grew up in the jungle, so I remember growing up, one thing that we had in common growing up in the hood was that we all had food stamps. That was one thing I noticed. We went to the ice cream truck, we had food stamps. What I also noticed that a lot of our fathers were not in the home. A lot of our fathers either were sentenced to life or basically in prison, trying to get out of prison, fighting cases. A lot of our mothers were present, but they were working 2 to 3 jobs or being on the street hustling, just trying to make things happen. And then I noticed that a lot of families that would either single parent or no parents around, a lot of us had either went to our maternal grandparents or our fraternal grandparents. Like me, I was raised by my grandparents, right? So my maternal grandparents. So my father went to jail at 16, like we always shared.
Yeah.
He was facing a life sentence. He had to do that. Then my mom, she was 15 with a newborn baby, which y'all seen with Tupac, having babies, right? That whole song, Brenda having a baby. Yeah. So my mom had a baby, and her thing was she had to work. She had to go to school. She still had to graduate from high school. She had to work 2 jobs because my dad wasn't around. So it left me in the hands of my grandparents. And I just noticed from a lot of my peers that grew up in my building or people in my community, we kind of all had that same story. And I feel like that was the foundation, that was the lineage, that was our legacy of what we traditionally came from growing up from where I came from.
Yeah, and I feel you on that. And as I think back about it and the things that I identified when I was growing up, the fact I shared in the past that, my mom was dealing with drugs. But my mom wasn't the only mother that was dealing with drugs. My mom wasn't the only mother that was raising a child by herself. And my mom wasn't the only mother who basically, kind of gave her kid up and had me stand with grandparents and things like that. And at that time, like I always say, I'm the only male in that generation. So a lot of activity that I picked up was from the streets at a young age. But I knew like that dynamic of just the drug scene and them sending me to school. Like a lot of times they send me to school and I didn't even understand what I was there for. Yeah. I just feel like they was passing me off and just placing me somewhere to go have fun, right? So I remember when, I used to get bad grades and stuff like that. I didn't understand why I was getting yelled at and things like that. But I had a grandmother that she loved me to death. But she also, in that family, she had daughters, sons, and she was taking in their kids too.
Yeah, it's a lot of that.
Yeah,
grandparents is the root.
And I realized like all of us was going through similar things. And so that's what allowed me to gravitate more to the streets than anything, because it was a lack of supervision and
lack of leadership.
And my father wasn't present. So, at the end of the day, I realized when I was talking to Dynasty today, it's like these broken homes, there's so many of them from all different cultures. Yeah. Right? And so we lost a lot of real tradition.
A legacy, lineage,
right.
Just all the way around. Just a full rounded home with a father parental presence,
Yeah,
right? Just parental presence, just being in that way. And we can come up with so many reasons of why the families are broken. That's
Right.
another video,
That's
right?
another video.
But we just wanted to, for people who may not know, like when people say broken home, what does that mean? Because you might have someone that come from a privileged lifestyle and their household might still feel broken because they getting raised by nannies and they don't get to spend time with their mother or father. So that's why we didn't want to like universally give like a generalized perception of what broken homes mean. But I know that when you growing up in the hood, when you growing up in urban communities, when you grow up in a struggle, we all have some type of experience with a lack of parental presence. We all have an experience with our parents trying different means of ways to survive, a means of way to cope in this world. You know, a lot of our parents back in the day was on crack cocaine or struggling with it. They were more functional, they worked, they had jobs, but it was still apparent that that was happening in the community. So I just want to say this is not to just give one perception or give a negative stereotype. It's just more of what we noticed and seeing my father, him not growing up with his mother and dad the entire time, and then having me, and then him leaving me at birth. It's like the cycle just kept repeating itself. So now that I'm an adult, I'm constantly thinking like, okay, what is this gonna look like for me when I have kids? Like, how can I try to like break that cycle, you know, the best way that I can, you know. I feel like I do have to get married or whatever that may be, but that's a whole different topic. But we just noticing this generational cycle, this generational curse that we are struggling with. And you know, when you don't have that family, when you don't have that foundation, it does show up in a different way in your adult life. And I think that's something we want to talk about like in a part 2 of what does it look like when you start to become older and start to grow as a human being and go through these different developmental milestones, and how we start to perceive ourselves through the world by not having that foundation. So, and what the type of things we end up getting into, you know, the questions that we ask, the thoughts that we may think of. So that's what we wanted to bring up, and I thought it was a great topic. So I just wanted to shed some light on it. If you guys got another way of defining it, let us know. But before we close out, was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I just want the people out there to reflect on that, think about it, and just like share, comment. Let's be open about it, because I feel the more you guys be open about it and comment and share, that give us an opportunity for all of us to grow in this together. Yeah. Because it's still a common problem to this day.
Right. And that's why we say mental health in the hood, because we can't give you a perception of mental health across all people, all communities. But for the people that look like us, that come from where we come from, that have been through some of the things that we've been through, who have grew up in these communities, and they look at us, they can see themselves. And that's the reason why we have this company, because we want to make people feel some type of relatability with mental health, so it won't be so looked at as like a stigma. We want to end that. We want people to say like, this is a real thing, this is something that's happening in our communities, this is a prevalent issue. So like I said, tap in, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. As you know, we post every Wednesday. Stay tuned. It was good hearing from you guys or seeing you guys.
Thank you. Mental health in the hood.